In this video, we're going to create a demo mood board that you can see on the screen in Photoshop, which will help us learn some of the new techniques and tools that you can use. So what you're going to need is a mood board demo zip folder, which you can download from the assignments tool. Once you double click on it, it's going to expand into a regular folder. And then inside of it, you're going to see JPEGs that we're going to use for this demo. You're also going to need the step-by-step handout, which is called Photoshop Moodboard Demo Word document, which you can also find under the assignments tool. And so basically, all of the steps that are in that document, I'm going to go over in this particular video. So first, you're going to go to File, New in Photoshop. You're going to click on Print. It's automatically going to say 300 pixels per inch. You're going to change the width to be 11 and height to be 14. And you're going to keep the color mode RGB and the background contents white. And you can change it if it's not so. And the only thing I'm going to do is change it to 200 pixels per inch to make my computer run a little bit faster. But if this is something that you would want to put in your portfolio, then you would want to make sure that it's at least 300 pixels per inch. Once you're set up, you can click on Create. My next step will be to display the rulers. So if the rulers are not showing on your screen, then you have to go to View, Rulers, and then a check mark will appear. So now that I have my rulers on, I first have to bring out some guides. So to bring down my guides, I'm going to click and drag on top, and then I'll drop off my guides 1/4 inch away. And then I'm going to click and drag on the left rulers, click and drag, and then release your mouse once you have the guide 1/4 inch away from the edge. I'll do the same thing for the other side. So I'm going to click and drag, drop off my ruler 1/4 inch away, and I'll do the same thing at the bottom. So here we go, click and drag, drop it off 1/4 inch away. So now I'm ready to continue. This is very important because no printer can print to the edge. And also in terms of the visual appeal, you want to make sure that you don't put any pictures or text too close to the edge. So that's why I brought my guides out, to make sure that none of my pictures or text are too close to the edge of the paper. So next, I'm going to make sure my layers are displayed. So if they're not, you're going to have to go to Window, Layers to display your layers. So now I'm going to start with my background, and I'm going to be using the JPEGs that were in your zip folder. So first I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to click on the background JPEG, and then I'm going to click on Open. Then I'm going to go to Command A, which is the same as Select All. So you can go to Select All or Command A. Then I'm going to go to Command C, which is the same as Edit Copy. And then I'm going to go to Command W, which is the same as File Close. So I've closed that file, I don't need it anymore. So back in my original file, I'm going to go to Command V, which is Edit Paste, and then the picture will come down. So then I'm going to press Command T, which will allow me to resize my image. So the resizing will be proportional even without pressing Shift. If you have an older version of Photoshop, then you will actually have to press Shift in order to make the transformation proportional. But in the newer versions, you don't have to press Shift. It'll be proportional by default. I'm going to hit Enter once I'm happy with the resizing of my image. Next, I'm going to go to Move Tool, right, and just make sure that I'm happy with where the image is. So next, I'm going to go to lower the opacity of my layer. So in the Layers palette, you can see the opacity there. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to lower it to, let's say, 50%, so that my background will not be too intense. It won't be too strong. Okay, so usually you want to lower the opacity of your background so that it's not too contrasty and it's more neutral. I'm going to double click on the layer 1 and then rename it as background. And with the background chosen, I'm going to use the move tool and see if I need to move it around to make sure I'm happy. So this looks fine. Next, I'm going to double click on the foreground color box, choose a dark blue or navy, and then I'll double click on the background color box and choose some sort of a yellow color. And you'll see why I'm doing that in a minute. Then you're going to go to filter and then filter gallery. So from here, you're going to see there are many different filters, and then you can further click on these folders, and each folder contains even more filters that you can look at. So for example, if I look at the glowing edges or texture, you can also notice that you can change the settings for each one of these filters. So if I want to have bigger crack spacing or crack depth increased or crack brightness or darkness, I can change all of those settings. So you can play around with all of these filters and the settings for each. But for this particular exercise, I'm going to click on the neon glow, which is on top under the artistic folder. And then it's showing me the glow color to be yellow, which is what I pre-selected as my background color. If I want to change that, I can just double click here and then choose a different yellow and say OK. And you're noticing that the foreground color is blue for this particular filter, and that's because the foreground color I pre-selected was blue. So when you're happy, you're going to click on OK. When you're working with your own artwork, you can select whichever filter you like that works for your theme. Next, I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to create a rectangular marquee selection going across here towards the top. And then I'm going to click on the brush tool, and I'm going to double click and select a blue color, a light blue color like this. And then you can increase or decrease the size as you wish, but I would recommend you put hardness at 0. And to make it go faster, I'm going to put the opacity at 100, and then I can just sort of like paint inside to add some blue color. So you've practiced, you're going to practice the brush tool. I'm just going to decrease the size of my brush a little bit, like that, and then paint inside. You can lower the opacity, and then it'll look a little bit softer. So I can lower the opacity. But again, I recommend keeping 0 for hardness, and I'm using the normal mode in this case. So here I have increased the transparency, meaning I have lowered the opacity, and now I'm done painting inside, so I can go to Command D to deselect. So because I had my rectangular marquee active, I was only able to paint inside of the rectangle, the selection rectangle. So next, I'm going to go to File Open, and then I'm going to select this JPEG here, which is called Room. So now I'm going to go to Image Mode, and then I'll select Grayscale. So this will discard the color, and it'll just make it grayscale. So it's going to ask you, are you sure? And then you're going to click, yeah, click on Discard button, and now you have the grayscale. So if you need to have a grayscale image, you would leave it as is, but if you want to add a tint to it, then you're going to go to Image Mode, RGB Color, and then you're going to go to Image, Adjustment, Color Balance. So here I can increase cyan so that it better matches my artwork. Then I'm going to go to Command A to select all, Command C to copy, and Command W to actually close the file. It's going to ask me, do I want to save it? I'll say no, I don't need to save it. And then I'm going to go to Command V or Edit Paste, and I'll use the Move tool to move it up a little bit. Next, with the layer with the room being selected, I'm going to go to the menu on top of the layers palette, and I will select merge down. That's going to merge my room with my blue shading, and now they become a single layer, so I can just rename it room shading so that I know what's in there. So next I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'll open the image called Gold Lady JPEG. And in here I'm just going to practice image adjustment, saturation, and hue. So image adjustment, hue, saturation. So here you can increase saturation, which makes it more strong in terms of the color intensity and saturation, or you can lower it, which makes it more grayscale. You can also change here darkness and lightness, and also you can play around with hue, which can kind of tint it in whichever direction you want it to go. When you're happy, you would click OK. The same thing with image adjustment, brightness, contrast, color balance, etc. You can play around with that. So next, I'm going to use dodge and burn to selectively darken her lips and lighten her eyes. So here I can go to dodge and make it maybe a little bit smaller, but keep the exposure at 100. And then so dodge will lighten her eyes, whereas burn is going to darken her lips or darken whatever area you click on. The other thing I could do is sponge. So in this case, I can desaturate or saturate. You can toggle here a particular part of the picture. So if I want to desaturate her shirt in this area, then I can just click and drag, and then it's going to desaturate that part of the image. Next, we're going to look at a feathered selection. So first I'm going to zoom out, Command minus, or you can do Command 0, and then I'm going to make a selection with the rectangular marquee tool. So I'm going to click and drag a little bit away from the edge like this. And then I'm going to go to Select, Modify, Feather. So I'm going to enter here 20 pixels. The bigger number you enter, the more fuzzy the edge is going to be. So you sometimes may have to play around with this depending on what resolution you have. So I'm going to put 20 pixels, and then I'll say OK. You can see the marquee selection changes a little bit because the selection is feathered. And then I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, and I'll go back here and I'll do Paste. So now this I'm going to rename as Gold Lady, and then I can use the Move tool to put it over here. I can go to Command T and then click and drag to resize it and then put it in its place. So next we are going to open a file that's called mini dress. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and I will select the mini dress JPEG. Then I'm going to use the rectangular marquee tool, click and drag and select this part of the image, and then I'm going to go to Image Crop. I could have also just used the crop tool, which you can see here instead. So either way. Then I'm going to go to Command D to deselect the marching ants. So here I'm going to use the magic eraser to get rid of the ants. Sorry, to get rid of the white pixels. So I'm going to go here and select magic eraser tool, and then I just have to click once and it'll erase the background. And the checkerboard shows. So as you remember, the checkerboard indicates transparency, so there are no pixels here. So that's great. Next, I'm going to go to Image, Adjustment, and I'm going to select Replace Color. So again, Image, Adjustment, Replace Color. And then I'm going to use the eyedropper tool here and click on the red section, and then if I reduce the fuzziness, it'll select less of the red tones. and if I increase the fuzziness, it'll increase more of the red tones. So it depends on how many pixels you want to select. So the replace color will allow you to change the reds into a different color. So different color that I wish to choose is green. So I'm going to double click on the result box, select green, and you can see how it already changed all of the red tones into green. So if fuzziness is lower, it'll select less of the reds, and if it's higher, it'll select more of the reds. Once you're happy, you can click on OK. This eyedropper with a plus allows you to select and replace another color, but for now I'm just happy with selecting the reds, so I'm just going to click on OK and then I'm done. Then I'm going to go to Command A to select all, Command C to copy, and then I'm going to go to Command W to just close my file. I'm going to click Don't Save, I don't need it, and then I'll go to Command V to paste it, Command T to resize it, and then I'll just put it over here where I want it to be. And the other thing that you could do here is zoom in and use the blur tool in case if the edges look edgy, in case if the edges look jagged. So I'm going to go to select the smudge tool and the blur tool to fix the edges. So here's the blur tool, and I can just kind of go around in case if it looks jagged, and that's just going to make it nicer and smoother and more fuzzy instead of it being jagged. But in this case, it doesn't look so bad. So you can use the blur tool to fix the edges. You can also use the smudge tool. So if it's like really jagged and pixely, you can just kind of use the smudge tool to soften the edges as well. But be careful not to distort it. So next, we're going to look at some other effects. So we're going to go to File, Open, and then we're going to select a JPEG called Chair. And here too, I'm going to use the magic eraser to get rid of the background. And my tolerance is set at 20. If my tolerance is set lower, then it would have selected less of the white pixels. But since it's set to 20, it erases a bigger range of the white pixels, so it works faster. The same would be the case with any other colors. So here I'm going to go to Command A, Command C, Command W, don't save, Command V, and now I've pasted a chair and I can move it into its position underneath. And I'll just go to Command T and make it a little bit bigger. Again, you don't have to press Shift unless you're using an old version of Photoshop. So this one is going to be called Green Dress, and this one is going to be called Chair. So I just double click on the layer name to change the layer name. And then there's different effects we're going to use. So on the mini dress layer, I'm going to go to Outer Glow Effect. So you're going to click on the green dress layer to select it. You're going to click on the FX, and then you're going to click on the Outer Glow. And then as you can see on the computer, it's giving me a yellow glow. If I want to change it, I can choose a different color. Let's say if I want to have a red glow, I could do that. But in my case, I think the yellow is good, so I'm going to select the yellow for the glow. You can see you can select higher or lower opacity, and you can see a change on my screen. You can also increase spread or reduce it. And you can also increase or decrease the size. So once you're happy, you can click OK. I might just reduce the opacity a little bit so it's not too strong. When I'm happy, I'll click on OK. Then I will select the chair layer. So for my chair layer, I'm going to click on a different layer style. So FX, it means it's a layer style. So I'm going to click on this FX button, the layer style button, and then I'm going to select drop shadow. So here is drop shadow. And you can see it's giving me a blue shadow, but I can change it into whatever color I want. So I could just do black if I want. And then I can change the angle. See how it's moving around as I change the angle? I can change the opacity if I don't want it to be too strong. I can change the distance, so how far it's away from the chair. I can select different size and spread. So you can just play around with these settings. And once you're happy with the preview, you can click on OK, and then you're done. So the drop shadow and outer glow are different layer styles, and there's many other layer styles that you can find under the FX button here at the bottom of the layers palette, and you can play around and see what they do and see which one you like. Next, I'm going to go and open an image that's called Marie Antoinette. So I'll go to File, Open, select Marie Antoinette and click on Open. So now we're going to have a look at how you can make a very quick selection that has fuzzy edges. So you're going to go and select Polygonal Lasso tool, and then the way it works is you just click and it anchors your lasso there, and then you just click around her like this. Don't go too close because I want to have a bit of a fuzzy edge around her. And then to close and finalize the selection, you're going to click on the starting point and a little circle will show up, and then the marching ants will appear. Next, you're going to go to Select, Modify Feather. And depending on the size of the image, you could do more or less. So I'm going to do 20 pixels. You can do more if you want. So 20 pixels, and I'll say OK. Then I'm going to go to Command C to copy. And then I can go back and go to Command V to paste. And then I can hit Command T to resize the picture, and then Enter to finalize the transformation. So now I'm done with this part, and I think it looks okay in terms of the edges being fuzzy. You can again change the setting when you work on your own artwork, but this is just to practice. I'm going to go back to this file, and I'm just going to go to Command W to close it because I don't need it anymore. So next, I'm going to show you another way to make a selection, which is just as fast. So you're going to go to File, Open. We're going to select the picture that's called Basso. I'm going to click on Open. And then here, I'm going to click on this button here, which is called Edit in Quick Mask Mode. So if you click on that, then you can notice here that it changed in the layers palette. Then you're going to click on the brush tool, and then you're going to reduce or increase the brush tool to whatever you need. But in this case, it's very important that you make sure that the opacity is 100%, otherwise this will not work properly. And again, I recommend using a fuzzy brush, so 0 hardness and 100% opacity. And then what you do is you just click and you paint on top of her with the brush. So you're actually painting a mask on her, which appears red. So when you're done, then you're going to go back, and then you're going to click on the same button, and it'll go back to standard, normal mode. And then when it goes back to standard mode, you're going to see the marching ants. So at this point, everything is selected except for her because she was masked out. So what I'll do is I'll go to Select, Inverse. So then she will be selected. And then I'll go to Edit, Copy. And then I'll go back to my artwork and I'll go to Command V. So now she's pasted down. I can do Command T to resize her. When I'm happy with the size, I hit Enter. And then I can just move her down a little bit here with the Move tool. So that's just another way to make a fuzzy selection. And you can use either one, whichever one you prefer. don't forget to rename the layers. So this one's going to be called Basto. This one is going to be called Marie Antoinette. And you have noticed that every time I've pasted something, the computer automatically gives you a new layer, which is created above the currently selected layer. So next thing we're going to do is create a title for our artwork. So in this case, I'm actually going to create a new layer, make sure it's on top of everything, and then I'm going to call it title. So I'll type in, double click here, call it title. Then we're going to go here and select not the regular horizontal type tool, but I want to select the horizontal type mask tool. So if you click on that, then you're going to click at the beginning of the artwork, and then you can actually see a mask appears. So before you continue, you need to go here on top and change the size. So by default, it goes up to 72, but I actually want 100. So I'll just type here 100 and hit enter. And then this is just a preview text. So what I want to do is click and drag here and then put my own titles. So Rococo Romance. So that looks good. And my next step will be to select the brush tool. And once you select the brush tool, it'll just turn into, the mask will turn into the marching ants. And then I can double click here and then select navy. And then I will use my brush to paint in some of that color inside of that selection. So now that you have the selection, you could go to edit paste into, and you could paste an image inside of this text, or you can paint inside of it, which is what I'm doing now. So I'll just go here and select yellow, and then here I'll change the foreground color box by double clicking on it and then selecting a yellow. And then I will paint some yellow at the bottom of this. When you're done painting, you're just going to go to Command D to deselect, and the marching ants will be gone. I can also go to FX Drop Shadow to make my text stand out a little bit. Again, you can move the direction of the shadow, so the angle and the opacity. And once you're happy, you click on OK. So you can also practice using the other tools, so just regular horizontal type tool. And the one that I just used is the horizontal type mask tool, which allows you to get the marching ants. So you can paint inside, or you can paste an image inside if you were to use edit paste into. So that's another way to play around with the text. Next, we are going to go and create some swatches. So for that, you want to make sure that your top layer is active, which it is. And then I'm going to select the rectangle tool, and I'll press Shift. So when I click and drag with Shift, it's going to give me a rectangle. I'm going to close the properties box. I don't need it. But I'm going to go here and change the stroke to be none, so that I will have no stroke. And then I'm going to make 3 more swatches. So to make more, you're going to use the Move tool to select this swatch. You're going to press Alt-Option key and keep it pressed down. And then a double arrow appears and allows you to duplicate. So again, press Alt-Option, the arrow goes double, and then you click and drag. Let go of dragging and the mouse and the key, and then it'll give you a copy. So one more time, Alt-Option, drag, drop it off, let go of all of the keys. And you can see it's showing in the layers palette that you have 4 different rectangles. So the next thing I want to do is select them all. So click on this one, then I'll press Shift, and then I will click on this one, and this one. And you can actually see they're all selected because I have pressed Shift to allow selecting multiple objects. And then you're going to click on this one here, which is align vertical centers. That'll align them. And then you're going to click on this one here, which will distribute them horizontally. And so now they're aligned and they are distributed horizontally as well. So next, since I still have them all selected, I'm going to use the Move tool and then use the arrow keyboard, arrow key on my keyboard to make them go over to the side so they're more centered. Next, I'm going to just click on one in order to exit the multiple selection. Now I want to change the colors, so I'm going to use the Move tool and then click on this one, and then that rectangle gets selected. You can see that in the layers. Then I'll go back to the rectangle tool, and then I can just click on Fill and select a different color. So let's say here I want to have a gray color. Then I'll click back on the Move tool. I'll select this swatch. It'll select that layer and it'll select that swatch. And then go back to the rectangle tool and then select a green fill. Next, I'm going to select the last one. So again, go back to the Move tool, select that layer, or you can even just select that layer, like you can see it here, and then select it. And then when that layer is selected, you're going to go again to the rectangle tool, and then you're going to choose a different fill. So in this case, I'm going to choose a navy or a blue color. So next, I'm going to select this tool here, and then I'm going to go to the rectangle, and I'm actually going to select a gradient fill. So you can go here, see what gradients you have, and then you can change it to a gradient, and then later on we can see how to create your own gradient. So I like this one, so I'm going to select this one, and then I'm done with my swatches. Next, I'm going to click on this button here, which is create a new group. So it creates a folder for you. And then I'm going to close that folder. So you click on this to close it. And then I'm going to click and drag these rectangles. I'll put it inside of that folder. Before I do, I'm going to rename it as swatches. So swatches. And then I will click and drag to put these color swatch rectangles inside. So now I have a folder that's called swatches. And then if you click here, it'll open so you can see what's inside. And then if you click here, it'll close. So that way you don't have too many layers and too many folders in your layers palette. So you can use the folders to put things like buzzwords or color swatches or color names inside of the folder. So that way it's easier and more organized for you. Next thing we're going to do is just add the color names, and then we're pretty much done. I'm going to add the color swatch names. So I'm going to click on the regular horizontal type tool. I will double click here on top to change the color. So I'll just select black. So you can double click here to change it. I'm going to change it here to be 14 or 16 points. So let's say 16 points. I'm going to choose the font I like. I can see here the preview of which ones there are. And then I just click somewhere in the middle underneath the gray swatch. And then I write gray. Then I click on the Move tool to deselect. Then I click again on the text tool. So here I'm going to write green. Again, I click on the Move tool, deselect, move over. Then I click again on the text tool. Then here I type gold. Again, deselect. Then I'm going to go to the text tool again and click and start typing navy. So now I have my titles. and you can see them here, so you can change the spelling or select them, move them, whatever you need to do. But in this case right now, I'm going to select all of them with Shift, and then I'm going to click on this button here, Align Vertical Centers, and then I'm going to click on this button here, which is Distribute Horizontally. So now they have been adjusted and now they are properly aligned. Make sure you have been saving, File Save, but I actually forgot to save it from the beginning. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and then save it on my computer. It'll be called Demo Board, and then family name. And it's already a Photoshop file, so that's by default a PSD file, and then you're going to click on Save, and then you're going to click on OK. So you can always just go to Command S to save it as you work on your artwork so that you have it saved before your computer crashes. So the same way you're going to create your own mood board as a part of your final project. The only difference is that we're going to do a horizontal orientation rather than vertical orientation of the artboard. So to set this up, you're going to go to File, New. You're going to click on Print. You're going to click on Landscape. So the width is going to be 14 inches and the height is going to be 11 inches. So 14 inches width, height is 11 inches. You're going to keep 300 pixels per inch this time so that you have a good resolution. You're going to keep the RGB, and then you're going to keep the white as the background content, and then you're going to click on Create. So here is my artboard, and I can then start putting images, drawings, text, color swatches, whatever you're going to use in your mood board. The only thing in the demo that I didn't do is the buzzwords. So on your original, you can see it says opulent, feminine, and romantic. So you can just use the regular text tool, the horizontal one, to add your buzzwords. And this is how you're going to set up your own original mood board, which will be the first part of your final project. So you can already start thinking about what images you're going to use and what topic you're going to use for your theme, and you can show me your progress in the class. And that's it for today. Thank you.